Hi, welcome to my suitcase. This can only mean one thing. It's time for my Croatia summer holiday. I'm packing right now because I'm leaving in a couple of days and I will be taking you along with me because I have some knitting projects I want to work on. And I thought I'd show you what I would bring with me to work on all those projects. I have actually 3 projects planned and therefore a bunch of yarn. Now let's go through everything. We have some Drops Bell in this lovely white color. This is the shade 1 and it's a combination of cotton, viscose and linen. Very nice. And this yarn will be used to make the Bayfest by Drops. Should be really nice, I hope. Then up next we have this yarn from Drops again. This is Drops Love You. It's a recycled cotton in this beautiful blue color. This is shade 117. And the pattern I have planned for this is the... Let me double check my notes. It's the Aiyu tea, if that's how it's pronounced. And it's by, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry. Wen Cheng Phua. Anyway, I'll put it on the screen. I'm very excited for this. And then finally we have from Hobby the Rainbow 86 yarn in the shade 73. Should be really nice. And I will be using this to make the Nostalgia top by, again, let me double check, by August Knit. I will link all the patterns below, don't you worry. So yeah, I have this whole bag of yarn. I also have some other things. I have my patterns printed out right here. And then I have this bag which I've put all of my supplies in. So I've got a bunch of interchangeable needles, some different cable lengths. I have measuring tape, stitch markers, my labels that I always sew in, plus then some needle and thread to sew them in. I have scissors and... Oh, and I have buttons. 2 of these will need buttons. So I got these beautiful pearl buttons that I'm going to use for both of these projects. So I have all of this. What I now need to do is this. I've put all the yarn in a vacuum bag so that I can hopefully make it much more condensed because it takes up a lot of space. I have this vacuum pump. So let's see how small I can make this. So for reference, this is the before and this is the after. That's pretty good. It's so much smaller, way more compact, and should take up less space in my suitcase now. Fantastic. So I'm going to finish packing and then I'll see you again, probably in Croatia. After a smooth flight and a pretty bumping landing, we arrived in Dubrovnik. Then a taxi ride later we were picked up from Brezicene by the speedboat that would finally take us to Lopud. And then, the moment I've been waiting for more than a year, we were finally back on the island. Of course, I immediately started knitting. Up first was the Drops Doves Bayfest, so I got my yarn and my needles and I started the process of casting on one of the front pieces, which is really enjoyable with this gorgeous view. The next morning I'd done the ribbing and one repeat of the lace chart. Now, there was an interesting bubble and the instructions were different from any other bubble I've ever done, and honestly it doesn't look like a bubble. So here's the chart, and normally I'd knit the extra stitches created together immediately, but here it was after another 3 rows. I don't think it looks horrible, but also not really like a bubble. Then we spent most of the day at the beach. The sea is so clear here and most of the time it's also very calm, so it's just a great place to be. I also continued working on the first fun piece. At this point I was just working up until the given measurement. Let's end this day with some turtles. These two are always roaming freely around this vegetable patch and eating some tomatoes that have fallen down, and I just love them. I love turtles. The next day started out pretty nice. I just sat on the balcony working on my knitting with a cup of coffee, and pretty soon I was ready for the next step, which was the neckline shaping. Unfortunately, the weather had turned at this point. There were dark clouds above the island, so we decided to skip the beach and instead go for a walk. So we went to this viewpoint and the views from here are amazing. It's even better if it's sunny, but now it still looks pretty amazing even with the dark clouds looming over us. Then once we were back, I changed into some comfy clothes and continued knitting. Here I've already done a few decreases for the neckline and you can start to see it take shape. I also started working on the armhole shaping. For that I needed to work a few rows of garter stitch before casting off a few stitches. And then the rest of the day was spent on the balcony and I got quite a bit of knitting done. As you can see here, by the next morning I had finished the first one piece. And instead of casting off the last row, I put the stitches on a stitch holder so that I can later knit the shoulder seam, because I just prefer that over sewing the seam. I also started working on the second front piece, which is the same as the first but mirrored. Now I was supposed to make buttonholes in the first front piece and I forgot. So I had to change the pattern slightly and give the second front piece buttonholes instead. The weather was much better this day, so we went snorkeling in the morning. So please enjoy some footage of some of the fish we saw. After our snorkeling adventure, I went back to knitting and just kept going until I finished the second front piece. The next day we went to the beach on the other side of the island, which is called Shoon. And to get there we took a taxi. And the word taxi is used pretty loosely here. It's a golf cart. The island is car free, so this is the next best thing. It's not the most comfortable, but it's better than having to walk all the way with all the stuff in the incredible heat. Of course, I brought my knitting, so once we get there, I got to work on the back piece. We also did some snorkeling here, and as you can see, the water is very clear, so there was a lot of fish to see for us. Honestly, I didn't get a lot of knitting done at the beach, so as you can see here, I had finished only one pattern repeat at this point. Then that morning, before we even had breakfast, I had already finished 2 repeats, or another repeat, so the total is 2, and then I just kept going. I did have to stop knitting at some point because we decided to visit the Rector's Palace. This has recently been renovated, so we haven't been there before in all the years we've been on the island. But it's a beautiful building, and there's also an orchard in the back with pomegranate trees, orange trees, and some other citrus trees. And you also get a great view from the front of the palace. I got some more knitting done after we came back from the Rector's Palace and managed to reach the point where I needed to start the armhole shaping. So I worked the garter stitch portion, same as the front pieces, and then cast off the armhole stitches. And this project was actually going really quickly, and at this point you can really start to see it come together, which was very exciting. The next morning I had worked on shaping the armholes, so as you can see here I worked some decreases on either side, and then I worked up until the point where I had to start the neckline shaping. That's done the same way as the armholes, so it starts with the garter stitch portion. And on the next row I then had to cast off the neckline stitches and continue working on one shoulder at a time. Later that day we got back into the water for some more snorkeling. In the afternoon I managed to finish one shoulder of the back piece, so then I got the corresponding front piece, and with the right sides together I joined the pieces by knitting one stitch from the front needle together with one stitch from the back needle, and then work a regular cast off. And then this is the finished seam. I then finished the other shoulder and joined that one to the front piece as well. And then this is what it looks like when it's turned right side out. Then all that was left to do was do the side seams and sew on all the buttons. But first we went back to the viewpoint to watch the sunset, which is just absolutely gorgeous here. And the next morning it was time for the buttons to be sewn on. I had already sewn the side seams, as you can see here, and marked the button placement using some stitch markers. Then I got my needle and thread and got to work sewing on these buttons. And here they are all sewn on. My label was also sewn in, and with that the first project is done. Let's go to the review. I really like how this turned out. It fits really nicely and I ended up wearing it a lot during the rest of my holiday. Also, the buttons turned out to be mainly decorative because I can just pull this over my head without having to unbutton it. Here's a close-up where you can really see the lace pattern and the cables clearly. Also, remember the bubble issue? Yeah, here you can see that they aren't really bubbles, which is a little bit sad, but it's fine. Then I immediately got to work on the second project, the Aiyu tee. For this one I first had to cast on for the back shoulder piece. Then after working some short rows you can see it's starting to take shape. After these short rows I continued until I reached the given measurement, which is right here. I then picked up the stitches along one shoulder to start working on one side of the front shoulder. But before I continued, we headed down to the beach for a wonderful beach day. Then after we got back from the beach, I finished one front shoulder and was ready to start working on the second one, which would have to wait because we first went out for dinner and enjoyed this amazing view and sunset. By the next morning I had finished the second shoulder and joined everything together to continue working in and around. The construction of this is also perfect for me, because there are no seams at all. The sleeves are started by picking up these stitches on the side and increasing along the fake seams kind of along the way. And then we went snorkeling again. You can now see the sleeve start to take shape, and I think it looks really good. I've never made a sleeve this way before, but I'm actually really liking it. But I had to put my knitting to the side for a while because we went on a hike to the fortress, which we can see from the back of the apartment. It's all the way up there. And I say fortress, but I should say the ruins of a fortress, because there's really not a lot of it left. The walk up there is also not the easiest, but we made sure to take enough water breaks and just take our time, carefully going all the way to the top. As you can see here, the path is not the most accessible, to say the least. It's covered in loose rock, so you really have to watch where you place your feet. But the views from up here are definitely worth it. rest of the day we spent at the pool, just enjoying the view, the pool, the sun, and of course, knitting. The next morning we ended up with the sleeves done and the top starting to really take shape. I then tried it on really quickly just to double check if it would fit, and because this will be the last day of part 1, to show you how far I got in part 1 and what the starting point for part 2 will be. So before we wrap up part 1, let's first enjoy some more footage of a turtle, this time a baby turtle, which is just incredibly adorable. Anyway, like I said, we are going to wrap up part 1 here. Stay tuned for part 2, in which we will finish the Aiyu and work on the final project, the Nostalgia Top, and of course explore more of the beautiful Lopud Island. For now, I'm going to leave you with the sunset. Thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye!